Hey, Jason, how's it going
Hey,
today?
it's going good, Kathy. We have an excellent show today. I am so excited to talk about this program that you're going to share with us mostly, but it's something that I've been around a little bit and I just can't wait to kind of drill down into it a little bit more.
Yes, safe routes to school is just such an important topic. I just can't wait to get into it. Let's do it. So, Jason,
Yes.
let's talk about what safe routes to school are. Do you know
It's
what they
crazy.
are?
No, I really don't really have that much more than just the common conversations that you and I have regarding what safe routes to school is. Look, there's a lot of routes everywhere. We have bus routes, I have bicycle routes, I have walking routes. I'm not sure how safe they are, but I'm interested to know a little bit more about what you're going to talk about here. So, Kathy, I don't know. I please fill me in. I can't wait to just show everybody my level of understanding.
Well, what you said, what you were just talking about, all of those things can be safe routes to school. So often people think of safe routes to school as, school property lines and from there to the inside of school or, just things that are directly related to a school building. And there's so much more to it, so much more. So people have to get to that property line and to that building or to that ball field or to that gym or to the library or the school pool or all of those things can be hold school related activities
So,
and
Kathy,
therefore
no, I'm
they can
sorry.
be, yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy, I am so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you here or anything like that. And that was totally rude to do. But I'm kind of curious about, you're talking about a whole lot of places where we can go and stuff like that, and we need routes to get there. Like sidewalks and stuff like that. Is that what we do? Is that how we utilize safe routes to school?
Safe routes, exactly. So it's the kids, it's the parents, it's the grandparents, aunts, uncles, neighbors that don't have kids, all of those things, all of those routes, all of those ways that people get to school are all safe routes to school. And safe routes to school programs do even more because it's not just talking about the routes, it's talking about education about the routes. It's talking about teaching kids how to ride a bike safely,
Right.
teaching kids how to walk to school safely, which can involve how safe is the sidewalk? How
Yeah,
well lit is
exactly.
it? Do they have flashlights on their bags or lights on their bikes? Are they wearing their helmets properly?
Mm.
So many things.
Yeah, and Kathy, you mentioned sidewalks and so forth, and it's just so amazing that on some paths I see, there are some pretty, uneven surfaces and stuff, and it's still passable. We can still walk there, but when these programs come up, like safe routes to school and the variety of ways that you can get yourself there, you want to make sure that you do so in the safest manner possible, right?
Right. And so safe routes to school programs and funding and projects help do those things. And so
Mm.
it takes all different kinds of people and all different levels of awareness to tackle safe routes to school and make sure that those routes, those ways that people use to get around are as safe as possible. And one of the key things to that is raising people's awareness. Raising
Mm.
people's awareness that safe routes to school isn't just from the edge of the school property to the school building. It's not just the route that you're taking while you have a child in the car to drop them
Right.
off to school. It's all of the routes around there. It's when you get out, when you let the child off out of the car to go to school and then step on the gas and take off out of there. That's
Yeah.
still a route to school for somebody, and we want to be as safe as possible.
I gotta say, I every once in a while when I do take my kids to school, they ride the bus most of the time, but when I do get them to school via in my car, I do know exactly what you're talking about. It's easy to get to the school. It's easy to get into the parking lot. It's easy to drop the kids off. Sometimes there's a lot of sitting around and waiting. for the line to move along to especially when we pick them up from school, but it's not so bad when we drop them off. But once that my kids are out, all of a sudden my mind is shifted into what I'm doing for work, where I'm going to get some breakfast, whatever is in that mind, what coffee shop I'm going to stop off, before I get to work and so forth. So there's a lot of things that just pop into your mind, and then next thing you know, you're right, you're just pressing on that accelerator, and I'm sure there's moments of just you don't remember that you went through the rest of the parking lot to get to the exit to head back to where you need to go. So yeah, I totally understand what you're saying with that. And the other day though, and this is just hopping into just this little next topic here, is I saw a kid riding his bike to school, and I thought it was so cool. He was wearing high vis, so unlike the last week where somebody wasn't high vis, this kid was high vis. His backpack was all shiny and reflective and all that kind of stuff, and he was wearing his helmet, and I thought that was pretty cool. But what about people who don't have helmets? Does this program, Safe Routes to School, what do you do for people who don't have helmets? I mean, are there potential giveaways maybe, or are there ways that we can help people, that point them in the right direction to maybe become a little safer, as far as when they're out riding their bicycle?
Absolutely. So that is one of the great things about Safe Routes to School is Safe Routes to School programs can not just be the physical things that are involved with Safe Routes to School, it's the education and outreach programs. And so one of the great things is that Safe Routes to School coordinators, or people that can help with those kinds of things, that's me, can help you as a school, as a parent group, as a neighborhood, run like projects and programs that will teach sidewalk safety, how to cross a street safely. And in that, do giveaways of bike lights and bicycle helmets, and do a bicycle rodeo where kids learn how to ride a bicycle and where to stop, how to start, how to check for traffic, and kids can play at riding a bike down the street, and then another child can play at crossing that street, and you do it in a safe environment so they're learning in a place that they're not at risk. And then they get to go out and practice those things. And another way to practice those is, instead of walking by themselves, you start a walking school bus. And that's, teaching kids how to walk in a group with adult supervision, so that, those kids are all getting to school safely, getting some exercise along the way, and saving gas money and saving that bus ride, and getting to school all refreshed and ready to go. And so many things, so many projects that Safe Routes to School can do that are just, that are really, they're fun, and they get those helmets and that safety gear into the kids' hands, regardless of what their economic situation is.
You just mentioned something that sounds really cool, but I can't help go back to one of my favorite cartoons back when I was a kid, the Flintstones, right? And now you said a walking school bus, and I'm not quite certain if that jives with my mind. I'm not maybe quite understanding it, and hopefully we're going to have something up here on the screen here that will show an example of what that is. But Kathy, a walking school bus, I don't get it. Are the kids behind the school bus pushing it, or what's going on with that? Because it sounds really cool, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me right now.
Walking school bus. So imagine that school bus without the walls, without the motor, without the wheels.
Wow.
So it's an adult walking to in front of a house or to a bus stop,
like
with
a bus
a
driver?
child, exactly. And that's what we call them, is
Okay.
they're the bus driver.
Nice.
So they walk up to the front of the school, and they know where the stops are, where the children are that need to be picked up, and they stop there, and out come the kids with their high vis gear on, ready to go.
Nice.
And then you walk to the next bus stop, which can be in front of somebody's house or a corner where a group of kids are getting together, and then they walk together on to the next place and eventually end up at the school. And it's a great way for everybody to get out there and get some exercise and be safe. Parents to get to know each other, you get to know the bike route, you get to know the ways to get to school without actually getting in a vehicle.
That is so cool. I'm excited to one day hopefully take part and a walking school bus. You hear that, everybody? Walking school buses. You do not have to push the bus. You
Nope, no
literally are
buses. No
walking with
pedaling
a
out the
group of
bottom of the,
students. No
no, yeah.
pedaling. Yeah, this is going to be so much fun when I see that. And I hope I have a camera on hand at the time when that finally comes to fruition around here. There's a lot of opportunity to do it. The better weather is coming up here in a little bit. And you know what? In our next segment, we are going to be talking about who is safe routes to school important to. And so I can't wait to talk about that part, Kathy. This has been eye-opening. Can't wait to see you on the other end. Well, Kathy, you know, we are back, and it's just been such a wonderful conversation talking to you about safe routes to school. Okay. I'm so excited to hear the things that you've been saying about it. We've learned a real good overview of what that is, what safe routes to school is. And we have also uncovered a very key detail that I was misunderstanding, is that the walking school bus is an imaginary school bus that we are in, not a real one where we push. So I appreciate the clarification on that.
Yes, so true. And,
yes,
just to point out too, safe routes to school, some of these videos that we have seen were actually done as part of safe routes to school programs.
Oh, that's
so
great.
It's just another way to get safe routes to school on people's minds.
Perfect. Well, speaking of those minds, who exactly, Kathy, is the Safe Routes to School program really important to? I mean, I think I know the answer to that, but really, can you kick off this conversation, because I think this is really important. Really, who are we talking to here, right? I mean, who? So, Kathy, who are we talking to when we mention this program out to our community?
Well, it's really easy to imagine, especially when you see the adorable kids out there walking around, that, the primary object of Safe Routes to Schools, primary object is to keep them safe. We want to keep all of those adorable kids safe so that they can become responsible adults and help contribute to our communities and our
That's
societies.
a great idea. Yes.
And teach them some responsible, ways of walking and getting around our community. But that brings to mind for me that it's not just for the kids. Those kids grow up. So we were all kids way back when, maybe some of us further back than others. And so Safe Routes to School is for everybody. It's for people that drive, people that walk, people that live. It's for all your next door neighbors. It's for you, whether you have kids or not. It's who else? People that work at schools, people that drive cars.
So wait a minute here, Kathy. What I want to ask you then, it really sounds like you're kind of saying that Safe Routes to School is really for the whole community. So we live in this wonderful community that is Clatsop County and surrounding counties, of course. But that sounds weird. We just got done talking about walking to school, a walking school bus, riding our bicycles to school. But now and actually, Kathy, it's really making sense to me, because, correct me if I'm wrong here, we are, all of us, we're kind of involved with Safe Routes to School seemingly anytime we get out of our home to commute anywhere, or even if we're just walking around in our neighborhood. It just seems like it's really all encompassing, like you said, to keep the kids safe, to find better ways to get to our schools or wherever that we're walking. But the reality is everyone participates in that somehow. I mean, just when I leave my job here and go home, maybe I'm participating a little bit in Safe Routes to School somehow.
And that
Help
is
me make sense of that.
exactly right. So when we improve routes to school, when we make them safer for the kids, we're actually improving them for everybody, because it's not just them that uses them. If we make the sidewalk safer by making sure that it's level and it's not covered in moss and slippery and better lit, it's not just for the kids that are walking on it that we're making it better. It's for everybody. And the safer those paths are, the more other people and everybody can use them. So the more we're teaching people to be aware of kids in a neighborhood going to schools, the more we're teaching people to be aware of people walking and using roads for other things other than driving their car.
That is really cool the way you put that, because part of my job, for those that don't know, is I do travel training for individuals, people with disabilities, older adults, but it's also for the whole community. But focusing on the previous two, people with disability and older adults, it really is a deal breaker for a lot of people if they get out and they see the only sidewalk from their home to a bus stop. Now, they might not have anything to do right now with anything to have to do with the local school. But if that sidewalk isn't so hot, they're not going to ride the bus. And most of them will just stay where they're at and not participate or enjoy their community. But from what it sounds like you're saying is, with these safe route to school programs, we might be able to fix a particular sidewalk, which will give the benefit not only to the kids walking to school, right, but to that individual who before couldn't get to the bus stop, now might be able to, because that sidewalk is in much better repair. Am I right in saying that? Because that sounds really good.
That is absolutely true. That is exactly right. And so if we're making it safer for kids, we're making it safer for everyone that uses it. And so, everybody benefits from it.
Yep.
And so and that's why safe routes to school really are it's for everyone.
Yeah,
it's for everyone. And it doesn't just affect, the sidewalk or the road,
sure,
or
right,
those things. It also can affect our air in our environment, because the more cars we take off the road, the less congestion around schools, the better it is for our environment.
True. Well, I'll tell you what, it all sounds really cool right now. It all sounds great. Sounds all nice and fluffy, and like there are no challenges. There's no issues with this. It really just feels like, Kathy, that this is just the perfect program, and that it happens everywhere. Every city, every town, every community has wonderful safe routes to school programs. I mean, are there any challenges here that I'm unaware of? Because it just seems like it's a really, really great program, which I'm sure it is. But come on, there's got to be some challenges out there.
As with everything, even though you might think at first blush that it's definitely a plus all the way around and everybody would be for it, there's always challenges, because people see things from different perspectives. So, we're telling people to slow down and be aware. Well, I may just need to get to work on time. Just get out of my way and I need to get to work on time.
Absolutely.
So, it just depends upon who you're talking to, what they find as a priority. And, it's more complicated than just saying, gonna wave my, where is it? Wave my magic
there's
wand.
The wand. Your magic wand disappears.
I know, it's so magic. Anyway, so I'm going to wave my magic wand and it's going to all be better. Doesn't work that way. It takes lots of planning, and planning takes time. And sometimes you just want things to be done right now. You need to fix right now. And that planning is a hurdle, and it's a challenge. You need people, engineers and people that know what they're talking about, to be able to look at things. And then in order to get them and do that planning, it costs money. And that is really, for a lot of things, just the bottom line. Funding. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for these things once you discover what the solution could be? What's the big answer? Again, magic wand isn't going to help you there with that. You need to come up with the money. Where does the funding come from? And so that is a huge challenge, especially out here in a rural area where, everybody wants a piece of the pie. The pie is only so big. Where does the money come from? So
you really encourage me with even the challenges part. It just shows you how cool this program is, because even when you talk about challenges, it still sounds really cool. So, take us into our next segment here by really telling us how we can be an advocate, how we can get out there and educate people. What can we do? What can the community do? We know what we can do. We can educate and bring to them, but what are we going to do? How do we advocate?
Well, some of the things take very little funding. It's just you doing it. Put up a lawn sign, get out there and volunteer to lead a walking school bus, be part of a school pool, Don't know what that is? I can tell you. Walk
Right.
to school, be part of a walk to school day. So none of those things actually cost money. And some of them already have people in place that can help you implement them. So you
Right.
just do those things. They don't take a whole lot of money. That's the beginning. And that's just, that's so easy for people to do. And we would love to talk to you more about how to do those things. So
Cool.
stay tuned.
So, hey, we're going to move into this next segment. We just exited this part, but we're going to talk here in a little bit about the plan. We have to have a plan, and we're going to do that next. Okay. Thanks, Kathy. Well, here we are. We've gotten through some really cool things talking about the safe routes to school. We've talked about walking school buses. We've talked about how kids can be safe. We've also talked about, really that safe routes to school really encompasses the whole community, Kathy. It has been such an encompassing, enriching conversation. And, really, after listening to this, I don't know why I would want anything else. I mean, this is a cool program. I want to see it active. I think it should happen, but I know it takes a lot of planning. I mean, obviously, it does take planning. There's a lot of things out there that we want to do that take planning. So, what I don't really fully understand, Kathy, is really how does that plan really get going? What do we need to do? And then, hey, if we've got a good plan, why not here? I throw that to you.
As a matter of fact, safe routes to school does happen here. So currently, a good example of the different stages of a safe routes to school project or program that's happening is Seaside was given a grant
Oh,
for
Seaside.
a planning grant. So they are currently in the middle of the process, towards the
Mhm.
end of the one piece of the process. So
Right.
they were given money funding for a planning grant to have experts, some consultants come out and look at the existing conditions around the new Seaside School campus, where they have the high school, middle school, and elementary school all in one big piece of property. So the consultants come out and they're engineers and they're traffic uh, analysts, and they look at the roads surrounding the school, and they take input from the city itself and from the school and other stakeholders, and they look at those things and they develop a plan. So they now have a draft plan that takes into consideration, you know, what different things look like
Mhm.
right now, and then how can they be improved, and how do we do that? So, ODOT gave the money for the consultants, and now there's a draft plan that exists. And so um, there a lot went into coming up with the draft plan.
So we know with a lot of plans, Kathy, and especially in the business that you and I are in, we see a lot of planning, and we see a lot of voices going back and forth and so forth. But what about the community members' voice? What about the research that they're doing, and maybe some of the concerns, or in some cases even the positive comments that somebody would have regarding the Safe Routes to School program, or the one that Seaside's particular working on. How do people? Is there a process for public input?
Very much so. So part of this plan, and thanks for bringing that back up again, because I kind of skipped that, is during the process where they came up with the draft plan, there was a part of the process where the consultants came on site and they actually physically looked at drop off times when everybody was dropping off their kids, and asked for input from parents
Okay.
dropping off kids, from parents that could drop off kids. So it was an in-person comment time, and people could virtually send in their comments and their concerns about, this is an area that I'm concerned about. Please make sure to take a look at the intersection between
Right.
Spruce and Alder, and look at where the kids get dropped off and how long I have to stand in line, and the idling, and the crosswalks, so the public was able to give input at that stage to say, here's a problem area I'd like you to look at. And right now, the plan is in its draft format, and they're looking for public input right now on what their proposals are. So if you go
Okay.
online, you can look at that plan and you can write in all your comments.
Okay, I got you. I got you. So it sounds like they've made the process pretty easy, to for me as a member of my community to be able to input and give my inputs to the process. And I'm really excited to see and hope that there are many people out there who would have, comments, and the concerns are just as important as the positive comments, because it's really important that if there's something that maybe the planners haven't thought of, that you bring up, because really we're from this community, right? So that's part of the reason why public input is so important, because we're the people who live here every single day, and we have that real important. It is really important. Your comments are really important. So I look forward to, hopefully we'll have this noted up here for you, where you'll know where to go to make that public input. And it's easy. You go online and you can do that. But Kathy, as we're getting kind of close to the end of our show here, which is amazing, because even though we're in this new format of doing the show, it still speeds by pretty quickly. And here we are
It
for the last little bit, but there's a little bit I think we can talk about regarding the elements or the details of a plan. So I was maybe wondering, is there something here that we might not have talked about yet regarding some of the details? What does the details of this plan look like?
So the details of the plan will include things where they bring up things that are existing conditions. So they talk about the existing conditions and then how they can be improved and how those routes can be improved. And some of those improvements are infrastructure. So adding a crosswalk, changing the sidewalk, changing how the road and the crosswalk and the sidewalk aligns, improving safety on a sidewalk, lighting, things like that. Those are physical improvements, but they also include things that are educational and outreach elements, so that more programming, so that, hopefully suggesting that the school organize some walk to school days or walking school buses, which we are both very excited about, and, other types of outreach things like that. So it's not just all, like, the plan doesn't just all address construction things. It addresses other things as well.
Excellent. So I'm really happy that we were able to have this discussion. And I can tell you what, this has been at least a pretty good deep dive into what Safe Routes to School is and how it affects your local community, how it affects in a positive manner the kids and everyone, we've learned right into our community. So I have just been really thrilled that we're and yes, hopefully have a real good starting point to seeing one come online here pretty soon in Seaside. And just maybe we'll get to see that walking school bus, which would be so fun. How about those school pools that you talked about earlier? I mean, there are so many things. And with all of the planning and the drafting that's happening right now, again, if you have any comments out there, those of you that are watching, we'll help you get that up there. You could always call us, you could message us, and we'll try to get that information or help you figure out how to do that a little easier for yourself. But it has been a great show talking about Safe Routes to School, and I'm telling you, we're gonna cap it off with some really good comments here towards the end. So thank you very much, Kathy. It's been excellent.
So Jason, this has been so exciting. This is such a great show, and I really hope people listen to this and pay attention and get back to us about what we can help them with, especially walking school buses, because they can be such a great benefit, especially getting in their public comment and seeing how we can bring safer routes to school to any of the schools in the area.
It is amazing, Kathy. And, here we are, we're talking about a program that, we've known about for a long time. You have been working so hard in developing and educating especially working with Seaside, and I'm sure any other school around here, you'd be amply available and ready to get that going. I hope that it would land on some very eager ears, and I'm sure it's going to. I mean, this is something to really look forward to, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And it's not just for Seaside. I mean, we're talking lights and safety equipment, lawn signs, things like that, comic books. comic books about walking to school safely. Oh my gosh, I love the Viv and Strider. Get back to me on that, because if you have a classroom or a school group that wants to learn about traffic safety, then get back to me, because we're on it. This is not only for Seaside.
Well, Kathy, you know what? We're towards the end of our show. And what it means now is we get to say we have a weekend to go to, right? We've got some good
Woohoo!
weather. Okay, we've just talked about
Fingers
safe
crossed.
routes to school. We have a whole, yeah, I hope so. Yeah, fingers crossed, right? So we have this exciting topic, safe routes to school, that we just talked about. You really helped us understand, helped me understand the finer details of it and so forth. And I just hope that as we go out into this weekend, whether it's good weather or not, or whatever, and you're commuting by bike, that you will be safe by wearing a high visible material, high visible clothing. Make sure you got your lights on your bike so that we can see you while you're out doing that. Okay, so from me, I say see you later and have a great weekend.
All right. Great weekend, everybody.